This video is the only BPMN tutorial you will ever need to watch if you are a beginner and want to get started with BPMN. This video won't be one of these super heavy theoretical videos. No. In the beginning of this video, I will very briefly explain what BPMN is and a bit of theory so you can understand what I'm talking about. And then we will together jump directly into practical examples and really step-by-step model business processes in BPMN and also execute these processes so you can really see how BPMN works in real life. That sounds interesting to you? Keep watching, let's get started right away. As you probably know, BPMN stands for Business Process Model and Notation and is a worldwide adopted standard to model business processes, workflows, and activities based on certain rules and stuff like this. In this video, let me say a couple of sentences to the most important components and elements in BPMN. I won't tell you all elements which are out there, that's not needed. I just want to focus on the most important ones so we can get started right away with the practical examples. So what are these most important components of BPMN? The first group I want to present are the events. There are three kinds of it: the start, intermediate, and end event. Events are things that just happen or occur, right? Or for example, the start of a process is an event, process started. And also the end of a process is an event, process ended. But also, for example, 5 minutes are over is an event, right? So this is something that takes place in a specific point in time. These are events. That's the only thing you need to know for now. Then we have another major group, tasks or activities. Mainly tasks look like this, a rectangle with some round shapes and a couple of words in it. And tasks come in multiple forms. Again, there are so many, but I just want to introduce you to three important forms. The first one here with this hand symbol is a manual task. Manual task you could think about, for example, moving a rock from place A to place B is a manual task. No IT system is involved. Then we have user tasks. A user task means, okay, a user, like a human, is interacting with an IT system. For example, you're sitting in front of the computer, entering some data with the keyboard into a form. That's a perfect example for a user task. Then you have service tasks or very automated tasks. This means that a system is doing something in the background automated, or some Java code, whatever, something technical. No human is involved, only IT systems are involved. So you can see there is a level of automation in these tasks. That's all you need to know for now. Then we have gateways, also very important. Gateways help us to basically make decisions or route us where to go in the business flow. There are multiple. I wanted to explain to you 4 different gateways for now. The first is the either/or gateway. That's basically like it says in either/or, right? So based on a certain condition, you would decide to go left or to go right. Only one way. Then we have the parallel gateway. This is there to actually have multiple tasks run in parallel, not sequential, in parallel. Later we will have some examples for this too. Then the OR gateway. This is a very complex concept to understand what the difference is between OR and an either/or. Later in the examples you will definitely understand, but very briefly here, like I've said, an either/or means you can just go left or right. There's no both. But with an OR, you can go also both ways, but you have to go at least one way. And then there is the event-based gateway, also a quite complex but also useful one. Here it's basically based on a certain event. So we are waiting for an event to happen. And if it happens, we go one way. If it does not happen, for example, or another condition is met, we go another route. But these are the most important gateways. I want to explain later more with some examples. Then the last bit of theory I want to discuss are pools and lanes. Basically, pools and lanes are there to describe different roles and to showcase who is doing what in a process. For example, here you can see we have 2 different pools, process A, process B, each one is a pool. And in process A, we have multiple roles, which are lanes in the end. And these 2 processes are communicating via the message flow. We have also a different kind of a flow, like an arrow, but you will see it later too. That's all the theory I wanted to cover for now. Everything I have explained now will be more easy when we do the examples right now. So let me jump to the tool. So here we are. And I want to explain with some easy examples the gateways and also the task and maybe the events that you have. So every process starts with an event and every process ends with an event. So I'm just directly creating it here. And let's have a very basic case study. Let's think about a bank who wants to approve a loan, okay? That's a very easy thing. So we could say we have a first activity where the bank user is entering loan details, okay? For example, we want to say you're entering the loan detail. For example, $1 million is the loan. And then based on the number, like if it's higher than something, higher than 1 million, we want to go route A, otherwise route B. This could be a good example for an XOR, for an either or. So let's do this example here. I'm very briefly modeling this example, and then we can execute it and see in real life how this looks like for the user. So let's do one thing. Okay, what do we do here? Just very easily creating some user tasks. That's too much. I'm just beautifying it a bit, and then I will explain again what we are doing here. So this is how a possible process could look like with an either or, right? So the idea is we're entering loan details. And now let's say if the loan is higher than a certain number, what do we want to do? You could have a send email task, right, to the boss or something like this. And if it's not, we could do something else. We could call the boss. So different activities based on the condition, right? So like I've said, a user task could potentially be a user form, like a form you're entering data. And that's what we're doing now. We want to create a form. So I'm just entering here the loan form, and we will create a form together. And let's say this form only has one information. It's the credit amount. And it's a number. And we make this field required, so the user has to enter it. Now going back here, like I've said, we want to say if the credit number is higher than 1 million, we want to send an email. If it's lower, we want to call the boss. Okay? So we have to now, here in the condition, enter this. It says if credit amount, let's say, is greater than 1 million, what we do is we send an email. Now this one, we could now specify if it's less than or equal, but I just click on default flow. This means just else, right? So here it was greater than 1 million. And this default flow is in any other case. If it's not more than 1 million, then we go this route. Now let me demonstrate you this use case, how this looks like for the real user. So I'm just starting my application here. The credit example is the workflow I'm choosing. That's the one I'm just doing here. Now entering loan details. So now I just get asked, what is the credit amount? Let's say it's 2 million, right? So now the amount is 2 million. I can complete. And what happens next? Now I got the send email activity. Why is that? Here you can see after entering the loan, it was larger than 1 million. So send email is the next activity. Here at this point, at this gateway, either this route or the route below is true, not both, only one. In this case, send email was the one. And if I complete this one very briefly, we see flow is done. Also, I can make the other example very quick. Let's say it's just $1, so a very low amount. Then we have the call boss activity, right? You see the other path was chosen, only one again. Okay. That's the XOR, the either or, which I wanted to explain very briefly. Now let's change things a little bit. Let's use the parallel gateway. Okay. So what we could do is, let's call this just, I want to explain the parallel gateway now. Just binding this here. Okay, cool. So what do we want to do? Let's say we are changing this gateway and this gateway to the parallel one. So now these conditions, we're going to remove it. That's not needed. It doesn't make any sense for now. Is there anything in? Don't think so. Let me quickly remove it so it looks just better. Okay, that looks better. So what does this mean now? In this example, now we have changed the XOR gateway to parallel. This means we are entering the loan details, and then in parallel, these two activities are open. And only if both of these activities, send email and call boss, both are done, only then the user task here gets started. So whenever one of these two is not completed, we are not able to proceed at this step under no condition. So let's save this again and publish it. So you can see how this looks like in real world for a user. Again, I'm starting the example. The credit amount doesn't make any difference for now because we have removed this condition. Now I've completed this step, and as you can see, both activities, call boss and send email, both are now open for me to take, right? And so you can see here, both are in green because both are now active. And when I decide to complete this one, you can see send email is still open. And until this one is not closed, we are not able to proceed. So you could imagine if someone is never doing this, this process never will be closed, which is potentially a bad thing, just to keep in mind. But this is how the parallel gateway works. I hope this makes sense to you. If I complete this, now the last task is here. I can complete that and everything is done. This was the parallel gateway. Now, we wanted to discuss the OR gateway, the inclusive OR. Let me here again switch very basically these gateways. So now we have these inclusive OR gateways here. What does this mean? Like I've said, for the either OR, only one path is valid. For this inclusive OR, at least one path has to be chosen, but all can be chosen, right? So what does this mean? Again, we need some conditions here. Let me, for example, put the following condition. If the credit amount is greater than 100, right? So this path is greater than 100. Then we go this route. But now here in this condition, we could say if the credit amount is greater than 1000, then we want to go this direction here down. And as you can imagine, if the value is, for example, 1 million, what is true? Both are true, so both paths will be chosen. For the XOR gateway, this is not possible because in the XOR, it's seen like an if, else if. So only one is possible. But here, multiple are possible. Let me show you this again in reality. How does this look like? Saving, I'm just deploying the app. And then we can run. That's fine. Let me open the credit example. So, like I've said, let's make it easy, okay? Let's take 150 for now. And as you can see, as only the first condition was met, only the first task, send email, is there, right? $150 I've entered, and this makes sense. Let's finish it. That's okay. And now let me again put another value. So let's put 2000, right? What happens then? Exactly, both paths will be chosen. Like I've said, as you can see, if it's over 100, we go this way. If it's over 1000, we go this way. In this case, both are true and both will be chosen. But only one is also possible, right? So that's the OR gateway. I know it's a bit complex to understand, but that's basically it. I hope you got it. I hope you got this one. Let me know in the comments too. So now the very last thing I want to do with you is the event-based gateway. And this one is a bit more complex to model, so we'll just take a bit more time for this one. So let's do one thing. Oh, okay. So for now, we can again enter these details. And let's say then the event-based gateway is the following here. And this is just demonstrating we are waiting for something to happen, okay? So one possible outcome could be either catching a certain signal. So for example, another workflow has to do something, we're waiting for it. And we also want to have an alternative, like a timeout, right? So if nothing is coming, we also want to proceed in some way, right? So we want to have a timeout, for example. So let's say here in duration, let's say 1 minute. We're waiting for 1 minute. That's a good idea, right? So we have a timeout after 1 minute. I can call it after 1 minute. Now we have to name this signal. Let's call it just signal or signal 1. It's a good thing. Right. And if signal 1 is occurring, right? If signal 1 is coming into, we want to have the activity call boss. And if it's not coming in, but 1 minute, if signal 1 is not coming in under 60 seconds, we want to go the alternative path as a timeout. Send email or so, something like this. And then we can say whatever, we just close it this way. This could be a potential use case for the event-based gateway. Now, as I've mentioned, a signal is coming from a different process, so I have to quickly create a different process to do this. So that's the signal process flow. Let me quickly enter something. All right. So let's say this flow is just a dummy, right? So we're just doing something, and then we will send this signal here. Let's also call it signal 1, so we know which one it is. And I'm also referring to it as signal 1. That's important because this signal 1 and this signal 1 is the same, right? So they have to match. And yeah, this should be good enough. So let's save it, deploy it. All right. All right, so now I'm in the application. Let's start the following. So we're starting the credit example. Just entering some loan. As you can see now here, it's waiting for the signal or for the timeout. Any of these options have to occur. Now let's start the signal process. Just finish it very quickly. And now we go back here. You see the signal was catched because now call boss activity is open. And that's here, right? So the signal was successfully catched. So multiple processes were able to communicate right now. That's awesome. We can finish it. That's fine. Now we also want to check if the timeout is working, right? So I'm starting a new flow. Here in history, now it's again waiting for the signal to occur or this 1 minute to pass. This time we will just wait for 60 seconds. So the timeout is winning and send email is the activity I'm expecting. So let's wait for a couple of seconds. All right, so as you've seen, 1 minute is done. And here the path is going to send email. So I'm expecting this as open task. And yeah, the task is open. And so yeah, it worked perfectly fine. I can complete it and the whole flow is done again. And that's the event-based gateway in action. So now I've demonstrated you the important gateways that we have, the tasks and events. I hope this makes sense to you. If you're interested in more BPMN content, let me know down below. That's it for now. Take care. Bye-bye.